Welcome to me, where suspenseful, thrilling, and mysterious stories will draw you into a world where the lines between reality and fantasy seem to blur. When the night falls, when all the sounds gradually quiet down, leaving only your own heartbeat and breathing, that's when these stories begin. Tensions, unsolved mysteries, moments that will make you hold your breath in fear or curiosity, all are waiting for you ahead. Find a comfortable seat, dim the lights, and let this sound guide you on a journey that is not for the faint of heart. I want each of you to leave a comment sharing where you are in the world. And if you are enjoying the episodes, don't forget to give a like and subscribe to the channel now. Relax. Are you ready? If so, join me in the first story right now. Virus. I am so crushed by time. Time and these oozing wounds and the rotten flesh, like mealy apple that is my chest cavity. Rotten skin and an infected mind. Gangrenous parietal. So insatiably starving for living flesh, to rend it in my grinding jaw, the music of muscle mashing between molars and canines. A beating heart, my own, a thick, bloody steak. The fog of insanity. I am a monster, a living dead. I was once a man, the axe head, dragging heavy in the dirt. A curved razor edge and an engraved raven screaming in the silver. Scratches all along the throat and dried blood caked from heel to toe. A thin trail drawn in my footsteps, full of nightmares and terror. A horsefly crawls from a soggy hole in my cheek. Up ahead, in the cobalt blue between night and dawn, a cabin with windows boarded and the door barricaded. Faint whisper of light on the eastern rim, hope pretending to be where it's certainly not. Or is it truly there? Does hope still exist when your own has gone from the world? Footsteps forward. An animal slaughtered and torn to bits in the yard. A goat, most likely. Its rib cage shorn and sucked of the marrow. Bones and hooves make for lovely crowns. Some of the infected have shown an affinity for satanic macabre, my own skin crawling. The devil inside me too. Feed, devour, carcasses, piled and burned and turned to ash. Skulls with strips of flesh melted to orbitals. An explosive exit wound from a lonely dome rolled to the bottom of the blackened heap. Shotgun sawed off. The stench is unmistakable, an overpowering, mutant reek blowing about in the wind. Someone has defended this place well. It's eerie and silent. No barn or garage. Tracks swerve backwards frantically in the gravel driveway. No vehicle in sight. A rope swing slung from the branch of an oak shivers in the breeze. Crows cry from the barren trees. They've learned not to pick at our remains. Those that do go stark mad. They attack their own, and soon the whole murder is infected. Dark balloons writhing in the sky, plowing at high velocities into stone structures, crashing through glass and shredding themselves to feathered ribbon. Perhaps everything living is gone. No. Through the foul aroma, something else. Sweat. Blood. Tears. Feast. The wood porch groans under my feet. Rancid stumps numb to feeling. Digits cracked and twisted from wild wanderings. Everything boarded. Nothing through which to peer. I rap a knuckle on the door. Solid, reinforced with planks. Or perhaps the overturned dining room table. I make sure to stay clear of the frame. Whatever shotgun did damage to that skull could be waiting on the other side. Moments go by. Nothing. I asked Caroline to marry me in a field of sunflowers. I planned to surprise her at the peak, but the sun pouring over the ridge painted everything a warm, liquid gold and filled me with a fearlessness I've not felt since. A courage that makes old friends of forever. She paused, a petal between her fingertips, and when she turned around, I was on one knee with a little box and a ring. I didn't even get the words out. "Yes," she breathed, dropping to the ground with me, my palm circling the small of her back, her hand running laps through my hair. Brown eyes, like Kodiak fur. I press my ear to the door. Raw appendage, blistered by the cold. The upper portion torn away by raking fingernails. Inside, a sound wave, barely a ripple, and then a booming echo, the thundering of a grandfather clock from a time long past. What's the hour? 5 a.m.? 6? What do the hands of a clock mean when time itself has stopped? And who said it ever really began? All of us zombies back then, slaves to time, wishing we had more, doing nothing with it, the best intentions, and all of our might, and all we did was eat the world. Mind virus, mustard gas in my demented cerebral, entire battalions twisting in the mud, gasping and choking, clawing away at their necks. Quiet, solitude, a freezing morning, and a cabin in the woods. Flesh, feed, gorge. I descend back down the steps and head for the rear of the house. My eyes dart in their sockets, alert to danger. The obliterated mutants in the yard burned in my thoughts like the scorched outline of a cattle brand. A ton of ammunition to build a mountain of bodies that big. Landmines and claymores, maybe. But the car gone, and no sniper fire to greet me. A fiendish drawl of laughter leaks from me. Where else to go? The hell is all around you. The backyard, gray and dreary and desolate. Spindly trees like crooked skeletons, and a rusted weather vane plunged into the earth. A playscape with a slide and tunnel. Haunting emptiness. abandoned next to the playscape, a purple big wheel with pink streamers taped to the handlebars and Disney princess stickers pasted all along the back seat, ice in my fingertips and chalk in my throat, a rupture in time and a memory forced to the surface. Winter sunlight streaming through the living room window and a cinnamon aroma wafting through the hall. Evergreen needles and ornaments sparking within, icicles and candy canes and crimson hearts adorned with all of our smiles, thrashing, tearing, ripping, the wrapping paper undone while she giggles with glee. "Wow!" she hollers, animated as a cartoon coyote losing its top. "Yay, Daddy!" She bounces up and down in the rubble, the paper crunching and crinkling beneath her, a smile on my face, and Caroline's hands on my shoulders. She kisses my cheek and rests her chin on the top of my head. "Oh, what did you get her?" she asks, the size of the box exasperating the tone in her voice. Surely there's nowhere to put it? Not in this tiny space. "It's a big wheel, Mommy." She's flipping it sideways and shoveling away the mess to give her mother a clear view. Her eyes beam with excitement, and electricity crackles in the room. Fleece jammies and wool socks floating a few strands of her strawberry blonde locks in the sunlight. "Can we take it out, Daddy? Can we?" She tugs at my arm. "It's all right with me. Ask your mom, though. Even Daddy has to ask Mom when he wants to do something around here." She bites her lip. She can be annoyed by the box occupying half the living room, or the childishness of her husband's silly, untrue joke. But what she can't deny is the thrill in her daughter's voice, or the simple joy that arises within a child when they receive a bike on Christmas. "Oh, okay," she relents, "but coat and boots on Missy. And take your father with you. I've got a breakfast casserole in the oven, and I still have to ice the cinnamon rolls." Gabby bounds from the room cheering. "And you?" She gives a playful shove. "Get that box down into the dumpster before I tape you inside and return to sender." I wrap her in my arms and take her down to the rug. She shrieks and we laugh and kiss, rolling around in the mess. The empty playscape again, front and center, and the big wheel lonely on the hard ground. Rage surges through me. I have the sudden urge to split a living thing in two, to pin its entrails to the wall. My hunger is an ocean, a quick twitch, wretched suffering, and a tweaking need for flesh between my teeth. There's a log on a stump from the before times when smoke from a chimney wasn't a sure way to get you killed. I raise the axe over my head and unleash an animal howl. I bring it down savagely, splitting the log in two and the stump 3/4 the way to the ground. Rage, feed. I pry the axe free and return my gaze to the cabin. Something unexpected. The back entrance is exposed. The door's been ripped from its hinges. It lies mangled 10 yards away. Darkness in the frame. Silence. No movement, but my own steps forward. A snarling in my mind. An impatient unease. I pick up a stone and lob it through the door. No hail of gunfire. No screams shredding the silence. I hold the axe steady and enter. A trail of blood on the kitchen floor and a shattered coffee pot nearby. Jagged remains of dishes scattered everywhere. Bullets in the wall and casings at my feet. A confrontation. But where are the bodies? Or at least the remains? Somewhere near. The scent is stronger, and the sound audible through the door. It's clearer now. A radio. There's a radio playing. It's coming from the living room. More blood on the carpet. Not just droplets, but messy splatters with a darker hue. A more gaping wound. An open artery. A bigger chunk removed. A green light blinks in the bookcase. The radio mumbles away. My monologue's out of control. I found the hole where the happiness goes. Lump in my throat and a throat in my tongue. I'm gonna scream at the top of my lungs. You get lost in the ocean. What do you do when you are so broken? The flood, the feeling comes over. How are you so loved and so lonesome? I press the power button and the noise ceases. Starving. I'm so starving. And sun-stable calm has bloomed within me. A hurricane eye still and silent, outside of which the chaos of the universe churns. A chaos untamed by the God that created it. What God? So much hatred in my heart. If infinite wisdom allows for this, then I wish to remain a feral beast forever. Up the stairs I go. In the hallways is where I find them. An infected with its head blown off, gushers of blood pooled in a lake around its body. Rigor mortis set in long ago. The creature's bony fingers have curled and cemented, its spine stiff as a folding board, and the smell putrid even to me. Black flies feasting on the carcass. A rat scurries from the gaping hole in its neck. The man of the house sat up against the wall at the end of the hallway, a shotgun blast through his heart. I bare my teeth and lean in for a closer look. Yellow in his eyes, in his fingernails, claw marks on his neck, infected by the thing he slew. Took his own life to avoid the fate of us. He's a weak dead, at least. No use to me. I crave flesh that's alive. There's nothing alive here. I reach into his pocket and find an unused shell. I slot into the shotgun and tuck the weapon under my arm. I descend the stairs and head back outside. I make for the woods behind the cabin. Maybe I can kill a buck and drain its blood, enough to sustain me while I hunt. Icy dew on the hard ground. It cracks beneath my steps. I stop in my tracks, and a hellish grin spreads slowly. on my cracked lips. What a gift of the virus. The nose of a bloodhound. The scent has returned. It possesses me, makes my blood boil. I follow it, saliva dripping from my chops. Thump, hollowness beneath me. I roll onto my toes and then back on my heels. A creaking and then a soft whimper. I can hear the blood rushing in their veins. My rain blows down upon the concealed cellar door. Screams that curdle the air and animal fear that only presents inches from death. I jam my heel into the destroyed wood and rip the pathetic thing from its hinges. I descend down, feeding time, a woman in tears and shaking uncontrollably. The virus propelling me forward like a demonic puppet. So dark in here, just a single lantern, and still barely any light in the sky. My jaw ready to clamp her throat, a whimper beneath her breast. A child, a girl, 2 years old, time swirling backwards again. Terrified screams, creatures tearing through our home, crawling on the walls and ceiling. Caroline sprints to the truck, Gabby bawling in her arms. The pistol barks in my hand. A bullet explodes through the eye of a pursuing mutant. Now I'm tearing after both of them, heart in my throat. The fear of God releasing atmospheres of adrenaline. I rip open the cab door, but it's too slow. The creature's claws are in my calf, and he's drawn blood. I waste him with the last bullet in the chamber and fall backwards, dragged to the pavement. I can feel it surging inside of me. Caroline screaming, my face in her cupped hands. Hot tears streaming down, foam in my mouth and violent convulsions. My windpipe is constricting. Go. I breathe. Caroline. Go. No, she cries. No, I won't leave you. Jagged needles of pain shooting up and down my limbs. Feverish sweat pouring from my glands. Go, or I'll kill you. She clutches harder. No, I won't. Yellow sun bursting in my corneas. Boiling rage and insanity beginning to blink its horrible visions. I take a final look at my baby girl. Then my last words before losing control. Go, or I'll kill her. The Jeep roars from the driveway, gravel dust clouds, and descends upon me. Wailing with her hands, pounding the glass, is Gabby. In her grip, her little Jonathan Husky doll, time present again. In the dark cellar, a mother and her daughter. And in the terrified girl's hands, a stuffed beagle. Her own Jonathan. I jolt backwards, the cords in my neck straining under great pressure. Oxygen has evacuated my lungs. Kill, feed, musty in the cellar. A dankness that comes with the dark and wet. Go, Caroline, I won't. I collapse to my knees and retch. Blood in my eyes. ravenous hunger that grips me. The woman clutches her girl and cries. She rocks back and forth, covering her daughter's eyes. No, I can't. No, I won't. Choked words between the retching. I won't leave you. Go, or I'll kill her. The fury is about to take over. I can feel it cresting into the abyss. One last shred of humanity inside me. My daughter's eyes in my soul. I clasp the shotgun and slide it, panicked, across the cement floor. Do it! I scream. But the virus has taken everything, and it comes out as a wild, maniacal howl. I'm overtaken, completely overrun. There is no more of me left. She lunges for the shotgun. I lunge to feast. A blast shatters the morning. There is no more of me left. The funeral of Evelyn Warren. The chapel was too quiet. Grace sat in the front row, her hands tightly clenched in her lap. She couldn't stop staring at the closed casket, the weight of it pressing down on her chest. Her mother, Evelyn Warren, was supposed to be in there. Gone. The whole world seemed to have shifted under her feet. But Grace couldn't fully accept it. Not when the last time she saw her mom, she was barely clinging to life in that hospital room. The pastor spoke about Evelyn's life, about her kindness, her strength, her love for her family. Grace barely heard him. Her mind kept drifting back to the hospital, the soft beeping of the machines, the moments of whispered conversation between her and the nurses. She's not going to make it, they'd said, and everyone had gathered around, waiting for the inevitable. But how had they gotten it so wrong? How was she really gone? A door creaked open, faint, but loud enough to break the silence. Grace's eyes snapped up instinctively. The air in the room seemed to change, thickening with something she couldn't place. At first, it was just the soft sound of the door, but then she noticed people in the back of the chapel, turning their heads. It wasn't just the noise. There was something in the way the air shifted, something tense. Something didn't feel right. At first, Grace didn't see anyone. She just heard the door. But then, she caught a glimpse of a figure stepping through, standing still in the doorway. A woman. Her figure barely visible in the dim light. Grace's stomach dropped. The figure was too still, too stiff. She couldn't see her face, just the outline of someone standing there, looking almost out of place. But then, the figure stepped forward. It was a woman wearing a simple dress, her hair falling loosely, almost wild, around her face. Grace's heart skipped a beat. There was something about the way the woman moved, about the way she stood there, her presence pulling every eye in the room toward her. Something in Grace's gut twisted. She knew that woman. She knew her all too well. Her breath caught in her throat. Grace stood up slowly, her legs shaking. The woman wasn't talking, wasn't even moving, just standing there. But it didn't matter. Grace's eyes were locked onto her, a strange panic flooding her chest. It was like something inside her was telling her this wasn't a mistake. "Mom," Grace whispered, the words barely leaving her mouth. But the woman didn't answer. She stood still, her eyes scanning the room. There was something about her, about the way she looked, like she was lost or confused. Grace couldn't breathe. Every instinct screamed that it wasn't possible. She was just imagining things. But the figure, that woman, had to be her mom. Her voice trembled as she repeated the word. "Mom?" The woman blinked. Once, twice. She took a step forward, her gaze still unfocused. Grace took a hesitant step toward her, and then, slowly, the figure's eyes found Grace. They locked, and for a brief moment, the room fell completely silent. The woman's lips parted, but the words were slow, unsure. I'm not dead." The room seemed to hold its breath. Grace's mind was spinning. Her body was still frozen, a wave of confusion and disbelief washing over her. She wanted to ask a million questions, but no words came. The woman, Evelyn, took another step forward, her face pale, her expression distant, as if she were struggling to remember why she was here. "I didn't die," she whispered again, almost to herself, before her eyes finally met Grace's. "I'm not dead." Grace's mouth went dry. Her hands shook. Her mom, standing there, alive, and looking like she hadn't just been on the brink of death. It didn't make sense. She couldn't make sense of it. Not when she had just signed the papers hours ago. Not when she had seen the doctor shake his head. Not when the nurses had told her it was over. She took a step closer, her heart racing. "Mom? How are you? What's going on?" Evelyn's eyes were distant, like she was still trying to piece everything together. "I don't know, Grace," she said, her voice low, almost trembling. "I don't know. I was in the hospital, and then I woke up somewhere. I don't remember how or why. It doesn't make sense." Grace felt the floor beneath her shift. It wasn't just her confusion anymore. The whole room was holding its breath. The whispers around her, the people shifting in their seats. It all felt like the world was tilting, like something that should have been impossible was somehow here, in front of her. Her mother was here, alive, but no one knew why. A voice broke through the silence, sharp and incredulous. "What do you mean you woke up somewhere?" It was Mark, Evelyn's husband, standing at the back. His voice was trembling, but it was louder than the rest. "How could you just wake up? You were dead, Evelyn." Evelyn turned slowly toward him, her gaze steady but tired. "I don't know what they told you, Mark," she said, each word heavy. "I don't know what happened, but I'm not dead. I'm standing here. I'm alive." Mark shook his head, his face pale, his hands clenched by his sides. "This doesn't make sense. I saw them roll you out. I saw them." His voice broke for a moment. "I thought we were done. I thought I was burying you today." People exchanged uncertain looks, some beginning to stand, others shrinking back into their seats. Everything had been turned upside down in an instant. Grace's mind was racing. "But the hospital, the machines, Her voice faltered, as if the words themselves were too heavy. "I was there, Mom. I saw you. I told you I loved you. She couldn't finish. The memory of her mom lying there, so fragile, barely clinging to life, was still too fresh. It didn't make sense. How could she be standing here now? So normal. Evelyn stepped closer, but there was no comfort in it. She wasn't the same Evelyn that Grace had known. She seemed distant, even when she stood right in front of her. It was like she was here physically, but her presence was off. She looked like someone trying to remember who they used to be. "I don't know why they told you that," Evelyn said softly. "I don't know what happened, but I swear to you, Grace, I wasn't dead. I didn't die, but we were all told you were gone," Grace whispered, her voice cracking. "Why didn't you come to us?" "I couldn't, Grace. I don't know what happened, but I couldn't remember how to get back. Everything felt so strange, like I was still in the hospital, like I wasn't allowed to leave." Grace couldn't breathe. None of this was making sense. "I need answers," Mark said, taking a few quick steps toward Evelyn, his face twisted with disbelief. "You don't just get to show up after we've all mourned you, after we've buried you, and say you're fine. I heard them tell me you were gone." His voice was sharp, raw. "What is this? Some kind of joke?" "I'm not joking, Mark," Evelyn said, her tone suddenly hard, but there was a weariness behind it. "I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm not here to confuse you. I'm just telling you the truth. I don't know what happened, but I'm not dead." The room was silent again, the weight of her words hanging in the air. Grace wanted to scream, to shake her mom and demand answers, but she could only stand there, frozen. The casket behind her, her mother's casket, was a cruel reminder of everything that was supposed to be real, of everything that wasn't. "Maybe you should sit down," someone whispered from the back. Grace couldn't tell who it was, Evelyn's eyes flickered around the room, scanning the faces. And for the first time since she entered, she seemed to register how many people were watching. Some were looking at her in disbelief, others in fear, unsure of whether they should approach or retreat. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone," Evelyn repeated, her voice quieter now, though there was something like sorrow in her tone. "But I can't explain this. I don't understand it. I don't understand how I'm standing here, either. I don't understand any of this." Grace felt tears threaten to spill, but she fought them back. The world was too heavy. It felt like her brain couldn't catch up with what was happening. The way her mother looked, alive, but not the same, was like a dream, like something she'd imagined in her worst nightmare. And yet, here she was, in front of them, breathing, standing, alive. "I'm sorry," Evelyn said, her voice barely audible. "I'm sorry I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. But I'm here now." Grace, standing there, couldn't shake the feeling that the answers weren't going to come easy. And maybe they never would. Lessons from my shadow dreams. It was storming. The sky a slab of slate with swollen thunderclouds crowding its expanse, each nudging for room. A wicked, unrelenting wind whipped chestnut hair into my eyes and mouth. Pulling it out of my face, I looked at the desolation surrounding me. Empty air met me in every direction. "I don't know where I am," I realize, as the panic starts to set in, and my breathing turns shallow and rapid. On my hands and knees, kneeling on what appears to be sand made from stardust, I take a calming breath and rise until I'm standing. What is this place? Where am I? The last thing I remember is going to bed, my lids shutting to the lavender of my walls as I slowly drifted off to sleep. Not knowing what else to do, I started walking, and that's when the voices began and the shadows formed. At first, it was small. It was subtle. A whisper here, a mutter there, voices that got louder as I trudged on. I struggled against the wind, hugging my arms to myself, each hand gripping an elbow until my knuckles turned white as chalk. As I walked, the black, star-lit sand at my feet began to rise with the wind, forming shadowy figures that strode alongside me, the overlapping voices tumbling from their open mouths. I watched in morbid fascination, my feet slowing as their dark forms became recognizable, their faces slowly morphing into a colorless version of the faces I know. On my right was my mother, a horrendous, nightmare version of my mother, her blue eyes dark as coal, and her face twisted with malice. "What are you doing? Really, Midge? Are you fucking stupid? What's wrong with you?" came from the cavern that was her mouth. My eyes went wide, fear and pain forming as tears that threatened to spill. You're not good enough. Why would I want to touch you? You're not what I want, came from my left, and my head whipped to see an equally nightmarish version of my ex. At this point, my feet had slowed until I was almost at a complete stop. More and more figures from both my past and present began to form and dance around me, each hurling their own unique version of verbal awfulness. With each invisible blow, I shrunk until I was crouched on the shifting sand. Hands splayed over my face to cover sight and sound. I squeezed my eyes, silently begging for it to end, for the voices and noise and all the venom of the world to stop. "Midge, breakfast?" I gasped, jolting awake to my mom's voice calling from the kitchen. As reality settled in, a sick dread pooled in my gut at the vague nightmare I'd left behind. "It was a bad dream, Midge. Just a bad dream," I mumbled to myself as I rubbed the sleep from my eyes. I tramped downstairs, the thick soles of my boots making loud thuds on each carpet-covered step. I slid into a distressed wooden chair at our equally distressed dining table that doubled as our breakfast nook. As I shoved eggs in my mouth, scrambled just how my mom knows I like it, I thought about our history exam today with rising anxiety. I was not the best at memorizing details, like dates or times. And last night, Amy had another drama round with her douche of a boyfriend. My mom sat across from me, early morning sunlight streaming in from the window sink, sipping coffee from the chipped Mom of the Year mug I got her for Christmas last year, before Dad left. Before it all fell apart, we sat together in silence. She analyzed me over her mug as I finished off my butter-soaked toast. "You okay, honey? You seem stressed," she asked with a slight tilt of her head. I nibbled my toast while staring at my plate, not wanting to admit how egregiously unprepared I was for the day's exam, or the nightmare I'd endured that clung to me like static. It felt like I was seeing reality underwater, my senses warbled and muffled, making everything as impactful as an echo. My mom cleared her throat, snapping me out of my reverie. "Midge?" she asked, her gaze holding concern as lines formed between her dark brows. "I'm okay, just not as ready for my exam today as I'd like to be," I answered simply. The truth was, I wasn't ready at all for anything. My mom pursed her lips and narrowed her eyes, a clear sign she knew I was lying. To be fair, technically, I really was worried about the exam today, but I also was still disturbed by my nightmare, which stuck to me like a dark, immovable shroud. And it being my parents' divorce anniversary didn't exactly help. As if sensing my thoughts, my mom's eyes darted to the calendar on our white linoleum fridge, absolutely covered with magnets and pamphlets or flyers. Instantly, her gaze softened when she recognized the date. "Hey, it's gonna be okay, baby. I know today will be hard, but you'll be okay. Plus, your father is still coming for a family dinner this Friday," she said with a quirk of her mouth, as if that should excite me, as if that fixed everything. I simply nodded as I tried to swallow my last bite of toast, which had turned to sandpaper in my throat. "Gotta go, Mom. Thanks for breakfast." Before she could answer, I quickly grabbed my backpack and was out the door. I sat in history, staring blankly at the open-ended questions in front of me. Mr. Sikowitz sat at his desk in the front of the class, hunched over papers he was likely grading for a different set of students, his red pen lightly roving and marking with steadfast eyes. I looked back down at the unanswered prompts in front of me and felt my heart start to quicken. Gods, I'm screwed. Dad would be so disappointed, I thought with increasing fear. My breathing became slightly uneven, and with the panic, my nightmare from the night before reached towards the front of my mind. This was the last thing I needed. But it seemed the more I tried to repress the images and the memory, the harder they fought back. Shadows began to gather at the edge of my vision. That same smoky, starlit sand from the dream clustering along my peripheral. I blinked hard 2 or 3 times while keeping my head down, trying to force this contorted melding out of existence through sheer denial. But to no avail. The darkness stayed. Slowly, and with threatening dread, the dregs of my nightmare creeped towards my desk until it surrounded me on every side. I briefly darted my eyes around the room, desperate to find some reaction, any recognition from my classmates of the nightmare unfolding. But I was left wanting. The line between dream and reality was paper thin, blurring further as the familiar wraith-like figures began to swirl upwards and form, then shattered entirely as my nightmare came to life. My mother was again on my right, with a mouth black as pitch and her blue eyes drained of color once more. "What makes you think you can do this, Midge? Answer me, Midge. What's wrong with you? Are you fucking stupid?" she hissed as her ghastly form drifted towards my ear, her teeth gnashing with each syllable. It wasn't exactly the same as the nightmare, but it was damn similar. Now my father, in his trademark suit and tie, took shape in front of me, causing me to flick my gaze upwards. Looking was a mistake. His usually coiffed hair laid limply on his head. His eyes were endless black holes, and he stood with his arms crossed, intimidating and unmovable despite his form. His slightly transparent clothes were rumpled and worn, which wasn't like him at all. And he looked at me with a face of disgust and hatred as I'd never known. At least, not from him. "Grow up, Midge," What's your problem? Why can't you just get this right? He shouted, somehow slamming his not-so-solid hand on my desk, causing me to jump to my feet with a yelp, my chair making a loud crash as collateral. Ms. Sloan, can I help you with something? My head whipped over to Mr. Sikowitz, and just like that, as I met his dark brown eyes, the spell was broken. I looked around and realized that the echo of my nightmare had vanished, and all eyes were on me, as if deciding if they needed to grab the straitjacket now or later. I audibly swallowed. No, sorry, Mr. Sikowitz, I said, as I haphazardly righted my chair off the ground and sat while keeping my head and eyes firmly down, my dark hair creating a curtain on either side of my pallid face. The rest of the day passed in an anxiety-filled blur. At every turn and every corner, I looked for the shadows, waited for the starlit sand to reappear and inch along the edge of my vision, anticipating the god-awful convergence of my nightmare and reality. But it never did. I stared out the bus window on the way home, watching the rain spatter the glass in large, heavy drops. "Hi, honey," my mom hollered from the kitchen when she heard me walk through the door, her voice warm and rich over the cold I felt in my bones, like a homespun blanket. Our house was a pretty open floor plan, with the kitchen slightly sectioned off, but having two large archways on either end of its L-shaped design. I watched her through this opening for a moment, trying to reconcile the nightmare version of her I saw at school with the flesh and blood in front of me. She was currently unloading the dishwasher, and when her hello was met with silence, she turned to look at me, her arm pausing briefly as she made to put away a plate. Her face scrunched, and she immediately put the dish on the counter. "What's wrong, honey? Did something happen at school?" I tried to speak. I tried to open my mouth to tell her about all of it, but nothing would come except tears that began to blur my vision. "Oh, honey," my mom said, as she strode over to me, crossing the distance in 3 or 4 strides due to her unfairly long legs. I let her hug me, soaked up the feeling of being wrapped in her arms, and for a solid couple of minutes, we stood in the entryway like that. I reveled in her warmth, the sensation of her solid arms around me, and memorized every detail that made her real, keeping contact with a hand on my shoulder. She guided me to the couch where we sat, knees angled towards each other. "Honey, what is it?" she asked. I looked at her, and at first I could only stutter as I struggled to form coherent words. I felt my anxiety and panic start to rise. The shadows were at the edge of my vision again, causing my breathing to turn rapid and shallow. "Honey," my mom asked, leaning closer. I could barely hear her, barely see her, over the pounding of my own heart. "Midge," my mom said, a bit louder now, giving my leg a slight shake as she placed her hand on my knee. The shadows and the darkness were beginning to take shape now, starlit sand rolling across the ground as it crept ever closer. Tears pooled along my lids, causing my vision to blur. Suddenly, warm, soft hands enclosed my face, and my mom's face, my real mom's face, swam in front of me. "Midge," she seemed to say in almost a whisper. "Look at me, look at me," she said, increasing the pressure around my head. "You are not broken, okay? I don't know exactly what you're seeing, but it's not real, okay? I'm real. I'm here," she said, taking the limp hand from my lap and gently placing it over her heart. I felt the softness of her wool sweater under my fingertips, like touching a cloud made of silk. I focused on her eyes, blue, just like they were supposed to be. Your mom's, right here, Midge, right here. Not that ghoulish thing of nightmares, I thought to myself, as the vile shadow, puppeting as her pushed and crowded closer along my peripheral. That's it, baby. I'm right here. Breathe, honey. Breathe with me. Focus on my voice, on my face. I'm right here, she said with a squeeze of my fingers, as she had removed her hands from my head and was now holding my own in her lap, her gaze unwavering. I took a steadying breath. Just breathe, Midge. That's all you have to do. Just breathe. I counted to 10 as I inhaled, and did the same on the exhale as my mom, keeping hold of my hands, did the same. That's it, honey. Breathe. Just breathe. 10 in and 10 out. You can do this. I nodded, and as I expanded my lungs in and out, feeling my pulse start to slow, blessedly, the shadows began to ebb, receding from the edge of my vision. The grotesque, half-formed versions of my loved ones melting and fading away, bit by bit. By about the 5th or 6th of these exercises, the nightmare was all but gone, the shadows having slunk back to whatever hellish mindscape they belonged to. There she is, my mom said with relief, seeing my eyes clear and the panic gone, a slight smile playing on her lips. I crumpled, burying my head into her chest with small sobs. "Oh, honey," she let out softly, stroking the top of my head as only a mom can. "Has this happened before?" she asked gently. I lied, shaking my head slightly as I kept it tucked into the crook of her arm. Gods, her sweater felt like the softest pillow. I soaked up the comfort. "Mid, do you know why your father left?" I whipped my head up, pushing out of her arms, taken aback by the subject change. Realizing I wasn't going to answer her, she continued, but her face took on a faraway look, as if trying to see through the smog of time to the not-so-distant past. Our family, both the men and the women, have always struggled to master themselves. We have the curse of extreme feeling, of intangible emotions strong enough to drown countries. And for some of us, that leaks into our dreams. And then, sometimes, those dreams, usually the darkest of nightmares, leak into our reality. She shifted her focus back to me and asked with a tilt of her head, "Do you understand what I'm saying, Midge?" "No, not really," I mumbled, swallowing and tucking a loose strand of hair behind my ear. My mom leaned forward, using her thumbs to wipe away my residual tears, and took my hands in hers. "Honey, what were you feeling? What did you see?" she asked, her blue eyes piercing. I don't know," I said, avoiding her gaze. "I was sitting in class, trying to take my test, and, well, I wasn't sure of some answers. And then I was thinking about Dad, and I panicked. Then the nightmare started. But no one else could see it, just me." At this, I raised my head to look at her with wide eyes, searching for answers or preparing for a straitjacket, whichever came first. My mom pursed her lips, seeming to debate how much she should or shouldn't say. I saw the moment she decided to bear all, clear as day. "Honey, you were experiencing a moment of extreme emotion, of anxiety and fear, maybe panic. And sometimes those things can make us forget who we are, or even where we are. For the few in our family who have a very special heart, our emotions can cause our worst fears or worst anxieties to come to life. It usually takes an extreme or traumatic event. And given today's date," she trailed off, her eyes going distant again. After a moment, with a shake of her head, she returned her attention to me. She made to speak, but I stopped her before she could get a word out. "What happened with Dad?" I asked. My mom silently opened and closed her mouth, clearly struggling with what to say or how to say it. "When it happened to me while I was with your father, he thought I had gone half mad. Mine was a nightmare too, a wretched one that had me crouched in the corner like a rabid animal. Once we learned of our family history and what some of us have to deal with, he decided he didn't want to stay with someone who couldn't trust her own emotions, her own feelings, whose reality and dreams tended to mix and meld until they were one and the same." My mom's voice got progressively softer as she spoke, until it was barely above a mere whisper. "I'm so sorry, Mom," I said, taking hold of her hands and squeezing her palms. "That's all right, sweetie," she responded with a grimace, tucking another strand of chocolate brown hair behind my ear. "You know why? Her eyes twinkled mischievously, my brow scrunched, as I tried to find anything good in what had so far transpired, or what I'd been told. Because, my mom said, clearly seeing I was coming up empty, it's not just the bad dreams our hearts can bring to life. She smiled, placing a hand upon my cheek, rubbing small circles against my skin with her thumb. It's the good ones, too. Witness to my own funeral. The darkness came first, then awareness. Not the gentle awakening from sleep, but a violent snap into consciousness, like a circuit suddenly completing. I existed, suspended in perfect blackness, my mind racing while my body lay still as carved stone. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. I couldn't move. Yet I wasn't suffocating. Instead, I existed in a state of suspended animation, my consciousness trapped in an immobile shell. Voices filtered through the darkness, muffled at first, then gradually clearer. A somber baritone resonated above me. Russell Mercer was a man of passion and conviction. In his 47 years, he touched many lives with his generosity and spirit. My name, my age, my eulogy. Panic surged through my mind like an electrical storm, but my pulse remained undetectable. I was at my own funeral. The realization crystallized with horrifying clarity. I was presumed dead, yet fully, agonizingly aware. The air around me was heavy with the mingled scents of lilies and formaldehyde. The polished wood of what I now understood to be my coffin felt cold against my back, even through the suit I'd been dressed in. My final suit, chosen without my consent. He leaves behind his loving wife, Margaret, and his daughter, Emily, both of whom he cherished above all else. Margaret. Her face appeared in my mind, soft brown eyes that crinkled at the corners when she smiled, chestnut hair that caught the light, slender fingers that had touched my face just days ago. Or had it been longer? Time had become fluid, unreliable. I strained against my paralysis, willing just one finger to twitch, one eyelid to flutter. Nothing. My body remained a prison of flesh, unresponsive to my desperate commands. As the prayer ended, footsteps approached. The coffin creaked slightly as someone leaned over it. A drop of moisture, a tear, fell onto my cheek and slid down to my ear. I couldn't even flinch at the sensation. "Oh, Russell." Margaret's voice choked with emotion. "I'll miss you so much." Her words should have comforted me. Instead, they sent a chill through my paralyzed form. Something in her tone, some subtle note beneath the grief, registered as wrong, like an instrument slightly out of tune, not enough for most to notice, but jarring to those who knew the true sound. Memory flickered like a faltering flame. The night before, what I thought was my death. Margaret bringing me a glass of whiskey. The unusual bitter aftertaste. The creeping numbness that had started in my fingertips and spread inward. My heartbeat slowing. Her face watching. Not with horror or concern, but with patience. The tranquil passage process is revolutionary, a professional voice explained above me. Dr. Howard, I presumed, the mortician from Serenity Gardens Memorial. The synthetic preservation compound allows natural death processes to conclude while preventing decomposition. The funeral home's specialization in this advanced method now seemed like cruel irony. I was trapped in the midpoint between mortality and preservation, held in stasis by chemicals that maintained my appearance, while my consciousness remained horrifyingly intact. And you're certain he's gone? Emily's voice. My daughter, 24 years old, analytical like me, suspicious of convenient truths. Even in my state, pride flickered within me at her questioning tone. Standard protocol requires a 24-hour waiting period before final sealing, Dr. Howard continued. It's mostly tradition, of course. We'll complete the preservation process tomorrow morning, 24 hours. A window of opportunity. That's thoughtful, Margaret remarked, her voice tight. Though I can't imagine why we'd need to wait. The scent of her perfume, vanilla and amber, drifted over me as she leaned closer to the coffin. I felt her fingers brush against mine, a feather-light touch that arranged my hands more perfectly over my chest. The law requires it, Dr. Howard replied, his tone professionally neutral. State regulations for the tranquil passage method are quite specific. I heard Margaret's slight intake of breath, so subtle that only someone who had shared a bed with her for 15 years would recognize it as frustration. The paralysis from the tetrodotoxin. I was certain now that's what she had used. Left me unable even to regulate my awareness. I couldn't sleep, couldn't drift into unconsciousness to escape this nightmare. I could only think, remember, and realize with growing horror what had happened. A door opened. The sound of high heels clicking against the floor grew louder, then stopped beside my coffin. Russell. Margaret's voice, no longer performatively grief-stricken. I need to make sure you understand why this is happening. Her fingertips traced the edge of the coffin, inches from my face. You never truly saw me, did you? Always focused on your own needs, your own desires. 15 years in your shadow, adjusting myself to fit your expectations. Her voice remained quiet, controlled. Did you know I started painting again last year? No, you didn't notice the studio I set up in the garage. Just like you didn't notice when I stopped loving you 3 years ago. Her words sliced through me more effectively than any scalpel. I hadn't noticed. I could have just left, she continued, her voice thoughtful. Divorce is so common, isn't it? But then I'd get half of everything at best. This way. She paused, and I could almost see her smile. This way, I get it all. The house, the investments, the insurance, a fresh start. The funny thing is, she continued, her voice dropping to a near whisper, no one will ever suspect. Your high blood pressure, your family history of heart problems. Everyone saw this coming eventually, just not quite so soon. 24 hours, she murmured. Then it will be over. I'm sorry it has to be this way, Russell, but I've waited long enough for my life to begin. Time distorted in the coffin. Only the subtle changes in ambient sound gave me any sense of time's passage. The paralysis was absolute. Yet paradoxically, I felt everything. The slight pressure of the coffin's padded interior, the unnatural stiffness of my starched collar. Most of all, I felt the crushing weight of Margaret's betrayal pressing against my chest more heavily than any physical constraint. The sound of the funeral home's front door opening interrupted my thoughts. Multiple footsteps approached my room. I just want to see him one more time. Emily's voice, tight with emotion. Before tomorrow. Of course, Miss Mercer. Take all the time you need. Dr. Howard's professional compassion. Dad. Emily's voice was closer now, directly above me. If only I could move. If only I could signal to her. My daughter, the one person who might question, who might look closely enough to see the truth. He doesn't look right, she said suddenly. I'm sorry? Dr. Howard's voice, confused. Something's off. His color. It's not like when someone's passed. Emily's voice grew firmer. And look at his eyes. The eyelids naturally settle in a slightly open position sometimes, Dr. Howard explained. We generally close them fully before the final preservation. No, it's not that. I swear they moved. My consciousness surged at her words. Yes, Emily. Look closer, Miss Mercer. Dr. Howard's voice was gentle but firm. I understand this is incredibly difficult. Many people experience these moments, seeing what they wish to see. I'm not imagining it, Emily insisted. Something's wrong. Dad had this thing about being buried alive. It was like a phobia for him. He made me promise I'd always check, always be sure. She was right. After reading Poe as a teenager, I'd developed an irrational fear of premature burial. The bitter irony of my current situation wasn't lost on me. I want another doctor to look at him. Emily's voice cracked slightly. Please, just to be sure. That would be unusual, Dr. Howard said carefully, but not impossible. However, we would need next of kin approval. That would be your mother. Then call her, Emily said. Call her right now. The sound of a phone being dialed. Rings echoed through the quiet room. Margaret Mercer. My wife's voice, slightly surprised. After brief explanations, Margaret's voice acquired a careful neutrality. Emily, she finally said, softly chiding. You're traumatized. We all are. But this isn't healthy. Mom, please. Dr. Howard, Margaret interrupted. Is there any medical reason to believe my husband isn't deceased? No, Mrs. Mercer. All standard protocols were followed. Then I think we need to accept reality and allow the grieving process to proceed naturally. The call ended. I felt a surge of desperate hope as Dr. Howard moved closer to the coffin. I'll perform a standard examination, he explained to Emily. I felt his cool, gloved fingers press against my neck, searching for a pulse that the tetrodotoxin had rendered imperceptible. He lifted one of my eyelids fully. The first change in my visual field since awakening in this nightmare. This was my chance. If any part of me could move, any minute twitch or dilation, now was the moment. Pupillary response is absent, Dr. Howard noted clinically. No sign of cardiovascular activity. No! I screamed within the prison of my mind. I'm here! I'm alive! Wait! Emily's voice was sharp. Do that again. Check his eyes again. Dr. Howard obliged, lifting my eyelid once more. I swear I saw something, Emily insisted. A tiny movement. There are certain substances that can create a death-like state, he said carefully. Extremely rare cases, but in my 40 years of practice, I've read about them. What are you saying? Emily's voice was barely above a whisper. Given your concerns and certain subtle anomalies I'm observing, I believe we should delay the final preservation process until we can conduct more thorough tests, just to be absolutely certain. In the stillness of my paralysis, a spark of hope flared to life. I was alone with Dr. Howard. After Emily left to make arrangements for additional tests, he had remained in the viewing room. Mr. Mercer, he finally said, his voice low and measured. If you can hear me, I want you to know that I suspect what might have happened to you. In my younger years, I worked briefly in Haiti, he continued. I witnessed cases there, substances that could induce states virtually indistinguishable from death. Tetrodotoxin is one such agent. Yes, my mind screamed. That's it. The door opened. The familiar sound of Margaret's heels approached. Dr. Howard, she said, her voice carefully modulated. I'd like a word. Their footsteps receded, leaving me alone once more. Minutes stretched endlessly until the door opened again. I appreciate your understanding, Dr. Howard. Margaret's voice had regained its composure. Something in his tone had changed. The certainty, the suspicion from earlier, had been replaced by a strange formality. Dr. Howard's footsteps retreated, and the door closed, leaving me alone with my would-be murderer. "Well," Margaret said, her voice dropping to a whisper, "that was inconvenient. Your dutiful daughter nearly complicated things," she continued. "But fortunately, Dr. Howard is a practical man. When faced with the choice between pursuing an unlikely theory or accepting a generous donation to the funeral home's renovation fund, he made the sensible decision. Cold horror washed over me. She had bought his silence, his complicity. "The tests won't happen," she explained calmly. "Instead, they'll complete the preservation process tonight. A small adjustment to the schedule, that's all." Her perfume, once comforting, now sickening, enveloped me as she leaned closer. "This isn't just about money. This is about freedom. From your expectations, from your subtle control. The truth is, I've been said for years in our marriage," she said. "Now it's just making official what's been true all along. One of us needed to go, and you always said you'd die for me. Now you get to keep that promise." Time passed, minutes or hours, I couldn't tell. The door opened again, and multiple sets of footsteps entered. "We'll begin the final preservation now," Dr. Howard's voice announced. "Mrs. Mercer has signed all the necessary authorizations." I felt hands positioning equipment near the coffin, heard the soft hiss of pressurized systems being prepared. "Begin the process," Dr. Howard instructed. I heard a mechanical sound, then the subtle hiss of gas being released into the coffin. The door burst open with a crash. "Stop!" Emily's voice, breathless and commanding. "Stop right now, Miss Mercer. Your mother has..." "I don't care what she authorized," Emily interrupted fiercely. "I have a court order. This is highly unusual," Dr. Howard said, his voice tight. "Judge Harriman is a family friend," Emily explained, "and he takes potential medical malpractice very seriously. This emergency order requires independent verification before any further procedures. And I've brought someone who can help with that," Emily continued. "Dr. Langhorne from County General. She specializes in toxicology." "Dr. Howard," a new female voice greeted coolly. "I understand there's some question about this death certificate. I'd like to perform some tests immediately." I felt the preservation gas being shut off. Hands moved around me, unfastening something near the coffin's edge. "I'm drawing blood for immediate analysis," Dr. Langhorne explained. "And I'm administering a counteragent that will neutralize certain paralytic toxins if present." Something cold entered my veins. The sensation, the first active feeling beyond passive awareness since this nightmare began, was shockingly intense. Hands moved over me, clinical and thorough. Fingers pressed against my neck, lifted my eyelids, checked my reflexes. "Interesting," Dr. Langhorne murmured. Very interesting. And then, a miracle. The slightest twitch in my index finger, imperceptible to anyone not watching for it, but to me, it was an earthquake, a revolution, a resurrection. There! Emily's voice, triumphant. His finger moved. I saw it. Indeed, Dr. Langhorne confirmed, her voice calm but urgent. We need to get him to the hospital immediately. This man is not dead. He's been poisoned with a neurotoxin that mimics death. The room erupted into activity. I felt my body being lifted, transferred, moved with urgent care. Someone should inform Mrs. Mercer, Dr. Howard suggested, his voice strained. Oh, don't worry about that, Emily said, her voice carrying a hardness I'd never heard before. The police are already speaking with her. They were very interested in the contents of her evening tea. Her tea? Dr. Langhorne asked. Yes, Emily replied, and I could hear the grim satisfaction in her voice. The one containing the same substance that nearly killed my father. The one I've been replacing with harmless herb tea for the past week, ever since I found her research on tetrodotoxin on her laptop. As they wheeled me toward the ambulance, I felt the paralysis receding further. A finger twitch became a hand flexing. An eyelid flickered. My lungs expanded slightly more with each breath. I was coming back from the dead. And Margaret was going to a cell. Justice, like life itself, sometimes hangs by the thinnest of threads. But when that thread holds, resurrection is possible. Eyes wide open, the sun hung low in the sky, casting shadows over the cemetery. It was a beautiful day for a funeral. Mourners gathered at the top of the hill, circling the open coffin to say their last goodbyes, as Donna Herman had passed, or so they thought. Her family, dressed in black, stood closest to the coffin. Blurry shapes hovered above her. Muted voices drifted through the thick fog of her mind. Distant, yet familiar. Donna Herman wanted to scream. She could see them. Her children, her grandchildren, her so-called loved ones, standing around her, dressed in black, murmuring their final goodbyes. The sky loomed somewhere beyond them, pale and streaked with the fading sun. The coffin beneath her was lined with silk and covered in a thick scent of lilies. In the words of the pastor beside her, she was dead, but she wasn't. She was right there. She could hear them. She could see them. Panic surged through her, slamming against the walls of her motionless body. She tried to move, to twitch a finger, to part her lips, to scream, but nothing obeyed. She was trapped in her own body. Frank was the first to give the eulogy. He was Donna's first son, her golden child. As he spoke, his younger brother, Josh, stared silently at their mother's body. Even in death, The old woman refused to rest. He remembered the doctor's remark that no matter what they tried, his mother's eyes wouldn't shut. They had asked him if he wanted to sew them shut, but he couldn't bring himself to do it, and neither could his elder brother or younger sister. "Are you Joshua Herman?" Josh blinked, snapping out of his thoughts and turning to the source of the voice on his left. "Oh, just Josh, sir," he said, clearing his throat. Two men in black suits stood before him, wearing sunglasses and carrying an aura of authority. The one on the left spoke first. "Nice to meet you, Josh. I'm Detective Foreman, and this is my partner, Detective Davis," he said, extending a hand. Josh shook it. "Thanks for coming out here. I didn't know what else to do." "You did the right thing by calling the police," said Detective Davis. "We'll investigate this matter thoroughly." Josh offered them an awkward nod as he noticed his brother's speech was about to come to an end. "I'll speak with you after the funeral," he said, before walking up to the podium to give his own speech. The detective stuck around, speaking to everyone who seemed like a person of interest. "She was like a mother to me," cried Cheryl Herman, Frank Herman's wife. She clutched tightly to her tissues, crocodile tears sliding endlessly down her cheeks. Her husband comforted her by rubbing her shoulder, but he too was too distraught to be questioned properly. Josh's wife, Celia Herman, had a lot to say about the entire family. She grumbled about how much Josh had suffered due to his and his mother's disagreements over his marriage. "We haven't been over in a while," she muttered. "I only know that Frank and Millie were the ones in charge of her care after we left the house." "Can you tell us more about Frank and Millie?" Detective Davis asked. "Sure thing," Celia said. She turned to the boy sitting on her lap. "Won't you go to Daddy now? His speech is about to end." She ushered away what looked to be a 5-year-old boy, the spitting image of Josh Herman. Once he was gone, she reached into her purse, pulling out a cigarette and lighting it. "What would you like to know?" she said, blowing out a cloud of smoke. Detective Foreman coughed. "Anything you could tell us that you think is relevant will do," he said, waving the smoke away from his face. Celia took a long drag before she spoke. "Frank is the golden child, you know. He can do no wrong in that old bag's eyes. Even though Josh has been the one keeping the business afloat, Frank has always gotten all of the credit. And Millie," she exhaled slowly, tapping the ashes off the side of her chair. "Well, Millie's got her own issues. Dating a scumbag like Cameron. What was your and your husband's relationship like with the deceased before she passed?" Detective Davis asked. Celia sighed and pressed the cigarette into the armrest beside her. "I haven't spoken to that woman or set foot in her house since she called me a gold-digging whore the day I gave birth to Gabe," she said bitterly. Josh always tried to keep the peace, though. He spoke to her as often as a son should. Detective Davis nodded, jotting down notes. "Right. Thank you, Mrs. Herman. We'll contact you if we have any further questions." He exchanged a few quiet words with his partner and the two detectives split off into the crowd. Detective Foreman found Cameron lingering near the back of the gathering, hands shoved into his pockets, rocking slightly on his heels. Unlike the rest of the family, he didn't appear grief-stricken. If anything, he looked bored. "Cameron, right?" Foreman asked, pulling out his notebook. "Yeah." Cameron barely glanced at him. "How long have you been with Millie Herman? A couple of years?" "Nothing serious." Cameron shrugged. "Look, man, I don't know what you expect me to say. The old bag hated me, wouldn't even let me within 10 feet of the mansion." Foreman raised a brow. "Why didn't she like you?" "I'm a DJ," Cameron said flatly. "You think Donna Herman would have wanted her goody-two-shoes daughter with someone like me?" He flicked his gaze toward the casket, his lip curling slightly. "Not that it matters now." At the same time, Detective Davis approached two well-dressed men standing slightly apart from the family. Julio Hernandez, a longtime business associate of Donna's, and Ben Handover, her lawyer. "Mr. Hernandez." "Mr. Handover," Davis greeted. "Mind if I ask you a few questions?" Julio adjusted his cufflinks. "Of course, Detective, though I don't know what else to say. Donna's death was unexpected." Ben let out a sigh. Truly unexpected. There was still so much to be done before He stopped himself. Davis caught the hesitation, his grip tightening on his notepad. "Before what?" Ben hesitated, lowering his voice. "Before she finalized the changes to her will." Davis's brow lifted. "What changes?" She mentioned wanting to reassess her assets and how they would be distributed. But she fell into a coma before anything was made official. Julio cut in smoothly. "Donna was very careful with her affairs. It's a shame she never got the chance to put her final wishes into writing." Davis absorbed the information. A sudden death right before a change to a will? That was a clear motive for murder. But who in the Herman family would have wanted Donna gone before she could make those changes? His gaze shifted to the nearby staff. Anne, Donna's longtime maid, stood with red-rimmed eyes, clutching a handkerchief. Beside her, Carlos, the butler, remained stoic, his expression unreadable. Davis approached them. "Did either of you notice anything unusual in the days leading up to Mrs. Herman's passing?" Anne sniffled. She was in a coma, but she was showing signs of improvement. I never thought." She shook her head, unable to continue through the sobs. Carlos cleared his throat. "There were tensions, sir. Madame Herman's children didn't see eye to eye when it came to her care." His eyes flickered toward Frank, Cheryl, and Millie. Frank and Cheryl insisted she remain at home. Millie argued she'd be better off in a care facility. Davis frowned. Cheryl was involved in Donna's care? Carlos hesitated before nodding. More than involved. She handled everything with the doctor. He wasn't just hired for Donna. He's been treating Cheryl's family for years. Davis narrowed his eyes. That was a detail worth investigating. Donna fought harder to be able to move, but her body would not listen. She knew who had harmed her. She could tell them herself if she could just speak. Desperation clawed at her, and somehow she forced her eyes to shift, darting around in search of anyone who noticed. And someone did. Gabe, the little boy's breath hitched. He didn't understand death. Not fully. He didn't like funerals, didn't like the way Grandma looked in the coffin, and he certainly didn't understand why, if she was supposed to be asleep forever. She had just blinked at him. "Mommy!" His voice trembled. "Mommy!" Grandma's eyes are moving. Silence. Then a soft chuckle. "Oh, sweetheart," Celia cooed, smoothing down his hair. "That's just your imagination, honey. Grandma's asleep." "No, no, no!" Donna screamed inside her mind. "I'm here! I'm still here!" A new voice, warm and honeyed, drifted over the murmurs. Children and their wild imaginations, right? Donna's blood ran colder than the silk beneath her. Cheryl, the woman who had put her here. The woman who had killed her, and no one would ever know. One by one, her family members approached to place flowers on her coffin. Some averted their eyes. Others kept them tightly shut. No one dared to look at her face. And no matter how hard she tried to flicker her gaze, no one noticed. Then, the last one stepped forward. Cheryl, Donna's blood boiled beneath her frozen skin. Cheryl smiled sweetly, crocodile tears welling in her eyes as she spoke about family, about bonds that could never be broken. Then she leaned down, her lips brushing against Donna's ear. "I know you're still in there." She pulled back just enough to meet Donna's unblinking stare, a serene expression settling over her face. One hand caressed Donna's cheek, as if in mourning. "Don't you worry." Cheryl's words seeped down her ear like a searing poison. "I'll have Frank join you as soon as the inheritance comes through." Behind the cerulean door. Summer. Vlog. Part 1. Uploaded June 20th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey, guys. Cassie here. Today is the first day of my songwriting retreat. I've just arrived at the cabin and absolutely love it. I'm so excited to bring you along on this summer journey with me. This cabin is exactly what I need. A quiet little place to write some new songs and finally finish the ones I started during our tour. And you guys, just look at this place. There's a forest, there's a lake, and there's literally nobody else for miles. Well, maybe more like a few 100 meters, but still. And here's the cabin. Doesn't it look cozy? I mean, sure, on the outside, it's a bit worn down. The landlord said he just inherited it and hasn't had enough time to fix it up. But guys, the main treat is inside. Let me show you, okay? here we are. I love this rustic wood paneling and the floors. And, oh my God, these windows, they're huge. So much light. I didn't expect a cabin this far north to have such big windows. But I guess the original owners mostly used it in the summer. Though there's a really lovely fireplace too. But I have no idea if it still works. And drum roll, please. Here's the star of this humble abode. This old, trusty, upright piano. You guys, I'm so happy I found a cabin with a piano. There's just something special about writing music on a real acoustic instrument. It feels so much better than any electronic keyboard. It's like the older the instrument is, the more stories it has to tell, you know? But I did bring my portable MIDI keyboard, just in case. This piano is probably way out of tune, but I'll try to fix it. I think I'm gonna set up my laptop right here on this coffee table so I can put some mics near the piano and record my songwriting sessions. Now, here's a small kitchen area. There's running water and everything, and I've already stocked the fridge. Gosh, these windows. Can you imagine how nice it's gonna be to make a cup of coffee in the morning and just sit here looking at the lake? Anyway, let's get on with the tour. Over here, we've got a door to what I'm guessing is a storage room, or maybe a shed? Not sure. But look at this color. What do you call it? Teal? Or cerulean, maybe? We should totally paint our studio back home this color. I really like it. But in any case, it's locked. The landlord said he doesn't even have a key, so I guess we have a little mystery on our hands. Okay, and here's the bedroom. Not much space here, and I can barely stand straight in this corner, but it's so cozy. Kinda like a hobbit hole. I've started unpacking already. Sorry for the mess. Now, let's go check out the lake. Oh my gosh. It smells amazing out here. I wish you guys could smell it through the screen. It's like pine trees, fresh grass, and a cool breeze from the lake. And listen, can you hear the birds? Not sure if the camera mic is picking it up, but I hope you can. I know I'm gonna spend so much time down here, drawing inspiration from nature. Anyway, I'm gonna settle in now, play some piano. Well, maybe try tuning it first. And I'll check in with you guys soon. The reception here is kinda spotty, but I'll do my best to post regularly. See you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 2 uploaded June 21st, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys. So, it's my second day at the cabin. Last night, I stayed up way too late working on a new song. And I guess my brain didn't fully shut off when I finally went to bed. 'Cause I'm pretty sure I dreamed a melody. Isn't it funny how our minds work? Sometimes I hear a song in my sleep. And in my dream, it's the most incredible thing I've ever heard. But when I wake up, it's kinda meh. at best. Or worse, it's not even my song at all. Just something I heard before. But every now and then, I do get a real song idea from my dreams. Honestly, even when I'm awake, it feels like songs already exist somewhere out there. You know? Like when I'm really in the flow, inspired, or whatever you call it. It's like the music comes to me, and I just have to write it all down before it slips away. Weird, huh? Other times, it's more like solving a puzzle. I have all these pieces. I just have to figure out where they fit. And when I find the right spot, it just falls into place. Maybe there's a place where all the songs and stories live, and we're here just to write them down. Who knows? Anyway, enough of my rambling. I tuned the piano as best I could. A couple of keys are still slightly off, but I didn't want to push it and risk breaking something. It's good enough for now. All right, I'm gonna go write down some new song. You guys have a good one, and I'll check in with you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 3 uploaded June 23rd, 2024. Video transcript. Okay, guys, this is weird. Remember how I said I dreamed of a melody? Well, now I'm not sure it's just a dream. I've been hearing this melody in my sleep every night, and last night I woke up, but the song didn't stop. I still could hear somebody or something humming it. It was really soft, but it was definitely there. I tried recording it, but my mic didn't pick up anything. Just background noise. I swear, I'm not making this up. This song, it's so beautiful, so full of longing, but it gives me goosebumps, and not entirely in a good way. And the weirdest part? It's like it's stuck in a loop. It just ends abruptly and starts over, like it's forgotten how it ends. And now it's stuck in my head. Oh, wait. I'm so stupid. I definitely didn't get enough sleep. Here, let me sing it for you. Then, now you see what I mean, right? It's like it's missing its ending. Anyway, maybe it's just my brain doing weird musician stuff. I'm gonna go explore the woods now and try to clear my head and then focus on my own songs. Let me know what you think in the comments. See you soon. Bye. Summer Vlog Part 4 uploaded June 25th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys, sorry for this shaky on-the-go vlog, but I just found out something, and I have to share it with you. So, today, I went into town to get some supplies, and I ended up chatting with this old guy at the shop. When I mentioned I was staying at the lakeside cabin, his whole face changed. Like, he actually looked disturbed. He told me that about 30 years ago, another musician rented the same cabin. He thinks his name was Daniel or David, something like that. And he just vanished. I have to find out more about this missing musician. I'm gonna hit the local library tomorrow and see what I can dig up. Oh, and before I forget, no, I did not distort the audio in the last vlog on purpose. I didn't even realize the part where I sang the melody got corrupted. I tried recording it again later, but when I played it back, all I got was this weird, distorted static. And after the third try, the electricity actually went out. Maybe the song wants me to finish it first. Or maybe it's just so old school that it only wants to exist in analog. Either way, for now, I'll just have to stick to good old pen and paper. All right, I'll keep you posted. Bye. Summer. Vlog, Part 5, uploaded. June 26th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey, guys. I have an update on the missing musician mystery. So, of course, I tried Googling it first, but without a full name, I didn't get very far. But today, I went to the town library, and I actually found an article in a local newspaper from 1994. Here, I made a copy. There's not much information here, but at least it confirms that a musician really did go missing. His name was Daniel Hart, and he disappeared in July 1994. From what I can tell, the police didn't search for him too hard, since he was a touring musician and wasn't from around here. They figured he just moved on. But here's the weird part. The article says that all his belongings were left at the cabin, including his guitar. Now, show me a musician who would willingly leave their instrument behind. I also talked to the librarian, this super stern elderly lady, and she actually remembers Daniel. He came by a few times to research local history and culture. She told me he always seemed to have his head in the clouds, and I think when I was leaving, the lady mumbled something like musician's curse, but I'm not totally sure. Not creepy at all, right? Now, about the melody, I transcribed it into sheet music and have been working on the ending. I've been writing down every option I come up with, but nothing fits yet. But there's something wrong with my notes. I don't think I wrote some of these variations in my notebook. I remember the versions I had in my head, but on the page, they're different. I don't know. Maybe I screwed up and made a bunch of mistakes when I wrote them down. Or maybe I'm just going crazy, like some of you suggested in the comments. It looks like my handwriting, but it's hard to tell with just the do and lines in the notation. And these cadences feel more than just incompatible with the main melody. They feel wrong, almost sinister. Honestly, the fact that I don't remember composing them freaks me out even more than Daniel's connection to the cabin. Summer Vlog, Part 6, uploaded June 28th, 2024. Video transcript. Guys, look, I just noticed this page sticking out from under the locked door. I swear it wasn't there before. Let's see. Oh, wow. It's the song. but there are a couple more bars added at the end. It looks old, and the handwriting isn't mine. Do you think it's Daniel's? Geez, how is that even possible? And why did this page suddenly appear now? I don't believe in ghosts, but this feels like too much of a coincidence, right? Also, I'm not just hearing the melody at night anymore. Now, it comes as a faint whistling whenever a draft moves through the room. It gives me chills, though I'm not sure if it's the sound itself or just the cold air. Am I losing my mind? Summer Vlog Part 7 uploaded June 29th, 2024. Video transcript. Guys, I've made some progress on the melody. I got a couple more bars right. I can feel it, but it's still not finished. It's like it's just on the tip of my tongue, but I can't quite get it right. It's louder now. I hear it even outside in the wind, though the farther I get from the cabin, the fainter it becomes. And of course, I can still hear it in my head, since I'm constantly thinking about it. It's the ultimate earworm. There's this urgency in it now. I've got shivers crawling up the back of my neck all the time. I think it wants me to figure it out. And soon. Sorry, I don't have much time to spare. Gotta get back to work. Summer Vlog Part 8 uploaded June 30th, 2024. Video transcript. Okay, this isn't just cabin weirdness anymore. I ran into town to pick up some groceries and when I came back, this. The whole place was trashed. They tore out a few pages from my manuscript notebook, and there are deep scratches on the locked door, like someone was trying to pry it open. But they didn't take my laptop or camera. The only thing that makes sense is that they were after the song. But why? Luckily, I had Daniel's sheet with me. I know the rational thing would be to pack up and get out of here immediately. But I don't think I can. I need to finish this song. I've always felt like it was important, and now I know it is. I think I'm getting closer to figuring out the right ending. The melody is clearer now, and sometimes, out of the corner of my eye, I swear I see it. This pale blue ribbon of light flowing around me. SVN News Report. July 1st, 2024. Forest fire near Songvale Lake. A fast-moving wildfire broke out overnight near Songvale Lake, with fire crews working since early this morning to contain the spread before it reaches nearby homes and hiking trails. Authorities believe the fire may have originated at a lakeside cabin, possibly due to faulty wiring in the aging structure. At this time, there is no confirmed information about potential victims. Evacuation warnings have been issued for several properties along the eastern edge of Songvale Lake, and officials are urging residents to stay alert and be prepared to leave if conditions worsen. SVN News Report, July 2nd, 2024. Missing musician. Last seen near Songvale Lake. Authorities are searching for Cassie Reed, a 29-year-old musician who was last seen in the town of Ridgepoint, just a few miles from Songvale Lake, the day before a fast-moving wildfire broke out in the area. According to local authorities, Reed was reported missing by her manager after she failed to show up for a scheduled video call yesterday. She had been renting a lakeside cabin near the fire's suspected point of origin. Reed was last seen on June 30th at a small grocery store in Ridgepoint. Witnesses say she appeared distracted and was acting strangely. Authorities have not confirmed whether Reed was inside the cabin when the fire started. Officials are urging anyone with information about Cassie's whereabouts to come forward. Meanwhile, her fans have taken to social media, using the hashtag #FindCassie to share updates and express their concern. Summer vlog. I'm Alive. Uploaded July 8th, 2024. Video transcript. Hey guys, Cassie here. I know many of you have been worried, but I'm okay. I had to go dark for a while. Someone, or something, set fire to the cabin, and they still might be after me. And the melody. I know some of you already thought I was crazy. Now, you'll be sure of it. But hear me out. I believe the song saved me. I found the right ending. I know the whole song now. It happened just a couple of hours before the fire. The moment I played the melody from start to finish, I heard a creak. The cerulean door opened. Inside, there was a room filled with old instruments, flutes, violins. I think I even saw Daniel's guitar. And there were cassette tapes, too. There were many more musicians before me or Daniel. I don't know what happened to them, but many of them tried to write this same song. I found heaps of sheet music in that storage room, all in different handwriting. Some pieces were definitely the same song, with variations of the last part, though not many were finished. What's interesting is that some of them felt right to me, even though they were different from my version. Maybe the ending isn't just about fitting the song. Maybe it's about reflecting the person writing it. And there were other songs, completely different ones, each with variations of their own. I don't know what that means yet, but I believe this song holds some kind of benevolent power. A protection spell, maybe. Something that keeps a darkness at bay. A darkness that's been trying to destroy the song and anyone who tries to finish it. I think all those creepy feelings I had were coming not from the song itself, but from that darkness, trying to scare me away. And when I finally finished the song, it got really, really mad. I must have dozed off while going through all that sheet music. But I woke up to the melody whistling under the eaves. It was so loud and piercing, like a siren. That's when I smelled smoke. The cabin was on fire. I grabbed as many pages of music as I could reach and ran to the living room to get my laptop. but everything was already on fire. I couldn't get to the door. Luckily, those huge windows made a great escape point, and then I just ran. Now I'm safe, and the song is too. I can record it now. I'm not sure if it's because it's complete or because that dark power doesn't stand in the way anymore. But I still have so many questions. I have so much research to do to fully understand what it all means. So I'm going to disappear again for a while. But I will leave this song with you. It's out there now, everywhere you can listen to music. And I think it's important that as many people as possible hear it, sing it, remember it. This song matters, and I'm going to find out why. Wish me luck. Venus, buried. The girl in the graveyard is your best friend, so you take her home. The night is a bruise between you, a blotch of rogue in the passenger window, the color of fruit left out to fester. The body pries at her seatbelt, a finger, then two. The radio echoes static. The body shuffles in her seat. You study the face, the similar slice of jaw, the nose humped from where a baseball had hit her at 12, just slightly off-center. The skin like a rain-licked plastic bag, the stink of musk and sulfur. You want to look away, but you cannot. She's so beautiful, even like this. Your headlights rake warbled slits through the dirt road, a yellow like jaundice. Your hands are stiff from the cold, your lips cracked. The girl beside you is dead, and you are bringing her home. 4 days ago, you'd stepped into a hardware store and emerged with a shovel sturdy enough to lift a life on. 4 days you'd spent digging dirt in your own backyard yard until loam muddied under your fingernails and erratic holes split garden beds like the mouths of greedy beasts. Until you could sift through soil with your eyes closed, with a hand bound. 4 nights you had laid in your bed, staring at the pockmarked ceiling, wondering what it felt like to burn alive. Now, the shovel beats dull against the skin of your trunk, your hands gripping the steering wheel like a throat you're trying to silence. The body turns, dawn bleaching the salmon gray of her skin. The left eye slips from its socket, and she pushes it back in with the heel of her hand. She smiles, head lolling like a marionette's. Sorry, baby. Her voice comes out strained. I wasn't expecting company. I'm sure you understand. In a sickle of citrus moonlight, Adeline Marcus smiles up at you with shell-pale gums. Adeline Marcus died on the 31st of October and was buried a week later, the date on her gravestone a month shy of her 18th birthday. In the court, the boys would claim it was an accident, that they didn't know she was inside. For better or worse, you believe them. The fingers striking out matchboxes, the beer cans constellating the sidewalk. A prank gone too far, the wrong place, the wrong time. It doesn't have to be on purpose. She didn't have to be home. The coroner ruled it suffocation. But all you can imagine is flame like a stiff palm, striking over and over. Adeline had crawled from the mouth of the home on her hands and knees. She was dead by the time she reached the pavement, her Sunday dress singed up to her knees. The dress you knew well enough. Either way, the boys were left with 25 to life, and the Marcas were left with a dead daughter, a ring of ash like chalk on the pavement. You were left with a misplaced guilt, like hunger, a guilt like an Ouroboros, choking on the tail, swallowing the head, eating yourself alive and being unable to stop, even as it consumes you. Because this wasn't the sort of thing that happened to good people. You watch water curl down your shower drain, carrying with it mortuary makeup, kaleidoscopic insects, and jasmine bubbles. Strings of dirt stretched out like sinew. The body's head rests on her knees, vertebrae needling through her back like a line of molars. The electric lights wash her green, dark veins rooted under brittle skin. She turns her face to the shower head and picks at the powdery sediment under her fingernails. The shower floor is a mess of grit. And you think of a child scooping up the sand. You turn the heat up until it scalds and scrub mildew from the base of the shower door. You think, if you can only get everything clean, everything will be all right. She turns her head and looks at you through eyes obscured by glass paneling. She says, "It's not as bad as all that." I don't even think I felt a thing, but she says it through lips the color of spoiled plums, so the sentiment doesn't ring true. You lift threadbare towels from the bottoms of your linen closet. You walk 3 times around your block and return to a corpse sat on your sofa like she has nowhere better to be. There are ants in your sugar bowl. You try to remove them, lift their crystal-knotted bodies on the prong of a fork, but they slip between the gaps, and you are left with a mess bigger than when you started. Tea-brown sludge bleeding from thoraxes and the stink of vinegar. There's a dead girl on your sofa, but let's focus on the ants in your sugar bowl. The way they thread through cysts of white like veins on a leaf, like the capillaries that run through the skin of your face. You make tea anyway. You add too much milk and sit cross-legged in front of the body. She stares at you. You stare back. The two of you drink, and ribbons of watery milk pour clean out her trachea, the gaping hole in her chest. But she doesn't stop drinking until you do. "You're not looking at me," she says. "Not really." "Yes, I am." You twist your hands in the shag carpet. "Aren't I now?" "No," she says. "You're not." You leave your teacup on the floor saucer an iris of yellow, and go upstairs. You take 2 cigarettes from the carton squashed on your father's desk, and then think better of it. Press down with your heel until tobacco dissipates into the tawny carpet. You change your bed sheets twice. Eggshell white. No, gray with peonies. You make a second cup of tea. When you get back to the room, the body is still there. You are looking at her. You are not looking at her. "Do I disgust you?" she says. "No." She shakes her head, dark hair plastered to her shoulders like reeds. "No more than I always did. You need to sleep." You say, "Baby." She tilts her head to one side. "Sleeping is all I've ever done." The last time you saw Adeline Marcus alive was in the back of a stranger's car, parked on a stranger's street, with the taste of a stranger's tequila fresh between your lips. You were never too built for parties, so the outcome was a pair of girls who looked like they were playing dress-up. Blousy dresses with sleeves like a nun's, thrift store necklaces noosing your necks, shoplifted lipstick, which she hid beneath her mattress, more wax than pigment. But in the citrus peel of street lights, in the low trill of distant music, the two of you looked beautiful. She had her legs curled under her and was sitting sideways in the back seat, her hand resting on your knee, and the other palmed against the window, a song on her lips that you couldn't quite place. You were too close, but it was night, and everyone was inside and drunk. And sometimes we all need to feel closer than we should be, to lose ourselves a little. The song melted on her lips, swallowed into the limp press of salvia and booze. And you said something like, "I think I should go home now." And she said something like, "Have another drink." And so you did. You let her pour the liquor into the flimsy mouths of red plastic cups and watched her swallow. She said, "You're so pretty." And you said, "I think you should stop." And she said, "Just let me say that one thing." And you wanted to say, "Stop fucking looking at me like that." And you wanted to say, "I want to crawl inside you and make a life for myself in the city of your mind." And you wanted to say, "Let's just be quiet. Let's just not talk. Let's just not ruin a good thing by telling the truth." Instead, you pushed open the passenger door, stumbled out onto the skin of vein blue sidewalk. "I'm going home now." The body lays with her back to your bed, hands worming in the floral sheets, chestnut hair spilling across her throat, past the ballpoint pen-marred bedposts, over the gray skin of her forehead. You are thinking about the silken mouth of a coffin. You are thinking of how she looked when you pulled her from the rose mouth of heaven. The radiator hums. A lace curtain bellies your open window. She rolls over onto her side, slots her hands together like pieces of a decaying jigsaw puzzle. You still can't even look at me. Her mouth moves too slowly, words like chewing gum. Why am I here, Bet? What's it for? There are pink crescent moons on the bed of your palms from the bite of your nails. She pulls her knees to her chest, and a bone cracks. She pulls her knees to her chest, and a molar tumbles from between her keyhole lips. You can only love me when I'm not here. You can only love me when there's nothing left to love. You press your cheek to the cool spread of linen beside her. You listen to the steady beat of your heart, the way you can feel it in your fingertips, entirely singular. Don't tell anyone. You say, did you want it to die with me, Beta? She shifts, and her hair falls against the nape of your neck. Were you glad it was silenced? Don't tell anyone. You say again. She sighs, lays herself back down, so you're face to face. Crooked nose, eye pulling from its socket. The onset of gray-green decay wreathing her jaw. The smell of soil and rot and cicada-heavy nighttime. Who could I tell? She brushes your hand. I'm not really here. And suddenly, you can imagine it is your fists splitting beer cans in two, like overripe fruit. It is your fingers on the matchbox, your fingers striking out. But you both know the house would still be on fire. And you both know you'd leave alone. You take her hand. You put your face in the crook of her neck and beg forgiveness from a ghost. Just another dead girl. Underwater. Trigger warning. Implications of death, violence, and sexual harassment. By the time the fisherman finds me, I will have been dead for 33 hours, 6 minutes, and 29 seconds. 18 hours since the police declared me missing. 15 hours since Zoe told my biology teacher that my tent was empty, that I hadn't returned from the party we'd snuck out to the night before. Careful, quiet, every twig a possible snitch. It was exhilarating, our hearts pounding, the smell of pine and seaweed thick in the air, and the moon a perfectly curved sickle. Zoe held my sweaty hand and didn't let go until we'd passed the tents and joined the others by the lake. The music on someone's phone was turned down just low enough for us to make out Billie Eilish's raspy voice. One of the guys offered us a beer, kept cool in the pitch-black, lurking water. I remember thinking I couldn't tell where the lake ended and the forest began. The first article, published by a local newspaper, reads, "Promising high school student missing after night swim in lake." Shortly after, the Water Rescue Service and Fire Brigade take over the search. Dogs comb the area, their noses trailing through the damp earth. A human chain forms, people moving slowly through the woods. eyes scanning for any sign of me. Even a helicopter hovers overhead, its whirring blades slicing through the heavy, charged air. The search drags on for hours, stretching into the twilight. Yet the woods remain silent. The police begin to ask questions. When was she last seen? What was she wearing? Had she been drinking? Did she seem out of character? Angry? Sad? Suicidal? No, no, and no. She was singing. She was dancing. She seemed happy. When the fisherman finds my body, miles away from where I was last seen, certainty sets in. The autopsy reveals a hematoma on my head and purple spots behind my ears. The coroners examine the water in my lungs and confirm that I wasn't dead before entering the water. I died by drowning. My classmates are questioned again. Zoe claims to have left early, while I stayed behind with her twin brother, Tom, who has been in love with me since middle school. Tom's behavior strikes the police as odd. He insists he barely spoke to me, despite people seeing us leave the party together for a few minutes. When my body is examined, traces of Tom's skin are found on my clothes, trapped between the fabric layers. Still, Tom sticks to his story, perhaps because the truth would embarrass him for some reason. Or maybe he's just afraid of the questions that would follow and the scrutiny that might come with them. Tom is right, in the broadest sense. We really only exchanged 3 or 4 sentences that night, but only because Tom's mouth was otherwise occupied with me. I had enjoyed every second of it, and looking back, I wish I'd given him a real chance, but I was too worried about what other people might think. So, as usual, I brushed him off, leaving him to walk away from the party, feeling hurt. Cassandra insists she heard Zoe and me arguing that night, just before Zoe headed back to the campsite. According to her, we were fighting over Tom. Of course she would say that. What else would 2 girls argue about, if not a boy? Cassandra even claims that Zoe pushed me, though Zoe denies it vehemently. She denies discussing Tom at all, insisting it was about something else, something that wouldn't come to light until much later, when our biology teacher became a suspect. But Cassandra holds firm to her version. The thing about Cassandra is that she's always been a shadow, the kind of girl whose name teachers forget after 2 weeks of spring break. Kelly, Cindy, Carrie. Something with a Z, though, right? So, when she finally gets the chance to talk to the police and be part of the investigation, she jumps at it. Unfortunately, Cassandra isn't much help to the investigators. She leaves the party at 2 a.m., at just 40 minutes before I die, leaving me alone with a group of guys who've brought along some tranquilizers. Sitting next to them felt like being stuck in a fever dream, where Jacques Derrida explains quantum physics at a frat party. At some point, I decided it was time to head back. One of the guys casually asked if I needed someone to walk with me, and I said yes, but no one moved. I glanced back, the campsite faintly visible through the cold, white light filtering through the pines. It was only a few meters away, just beyond the trees. I'd walked this path for days, never once feeling threatened by the shadows in the bushes. But tonight, that sinking feeling in my stomach wouldn't go away. Still, I refused to be that girl, the one who got scared at every creak in the dark, the one who needed someone to hold her hand for a few steps. So I stood up and said I'd walk alone. Instead of sticking to the dark trail, though, I decided to take a small detour along the riverbank. A bit longer, a bit lighter, and hopefully a bit safer. One of the guys told me to text him when I made it to my tent. But when I didn't, no one even noticed. 16 days after my death, suspicion begins to shift toward our biology teacher. Devin, one of my classmates, reveals that he had felt ill that night and went looking for the teacher's tent, only to find it empty. Soon after, the teacher's behavior takes a strange turn. He starts making inconsistent statements that don't add up. One day, he calls Zoe into his office after class, where he insists that his earlier proposal to her before the trip had been nothing but a joke. She understood that, right? It was sarcasm, he says, claiming that what he really meant was that if she wanted to improve her grades, she should consider attending a tutoring service. And this is where Cassandra steps in for the final time. She confesses that she visited our biology teacher after the party and that they went to the boathouse, where, according to her, nothing bad happened. He was just there for me. The biology teacher is immediately suspended, but the case against him has nothing to do with mine, as Cassandra's alibi clears him. Meanwhile, the suspicions surrounding Zoe and Tom are too weak to pursue. My case remains unsolved, and eventually people begin to accept the idea that it was just a tragic accident, that I must have hit my head when I jumped into the water. They agree that I seemed unhappy, not just that night, but in general, and that my relationship with my parents, who expected me to excel in everything, was strained. Perhaps the pressure had finally got to her. It's all unsatisfying, of course. Unsatisfying for the local magazine, whose updates eventually dry up. Unsatisfying for the police, left with yet another unsolved case on their desk. Unsatisfying for my parents, who, decades later, will say in an interview that not a day goes by that they don't think of their little girl. Maybe one day, a classmate will write a college essay about my case, reflecting on how it taught them that life can end in an instant. Maybe my story will end up on a true crime podcast. Or perhaps Netflix will stretch it into a tightly structured 8-episode miniseries where my body is discovered just 3 minutes in. enough time for viewers to decide if they'll keep watching. Or maybe none of this happens, and I'll fade away like countless other women who are silenced every day simply for being born the wrong sex. It doesn't matter who profits from my story. It doesn't even matter if they eventually find the two men I crossed paths with on my way back to the campsite in the wrong place at the wrong time. None of this matters, because in the end, I'm just another dead girl underwater. Goodbye, Mary. It's funny how I spent my whole life forming relationships, working, trying to be a good person, and building something out of nothing to feel safe, secure, and happy. It's even funnier how it all went away in a matter of few days. A few days that rocked my world, ruined all my foundations, and forced me to take steps I would never imagine to have to take. My black boots slightly sink in the mud, and I swear at myself that I chose this specific day for such an unimportant matter. Didn't the weather prediction say it will rain all night? Maybe. I haven't paid much attention to things so trivial. I fix my black coat, seeing it has lifted slightly in the corner, and feel a cold breeze wash over my bare legs. I should have worn leggings or at least tights, but I couldn't find any black ones. And surely I should not be wearing any other color to the funeral. It's hardly a funeral, though. I am the only person here watching the freshly dug ground and the sun reflecting stone gravestone. Mary Ann Robinson, the grave says. Her date of birth and death are also engraved, but no other message, like others have. There are no loving daughter, or she left us too soon, or some cheesy poem quote about inevitable death and the horror of young people dying. She was only 26 years old. It definitely is too young to die. She's had her whole life ahead of her. And now, she's buried on some old, almost abandoned cemetery where no one will visit her, bring fresh flowers, or tend to her grave. Mary Ann was a fearful person. She was too scared to stand up to her toxic manager at work and let them bully her. She was in a relationship with a man she didn't love because being on her own terrified her. She never voiced her feelings, fought for what she believed, or chased her dreams. She was living an anxious life and never tried to change it. I sit down at the bench just a couple of steps away from the grave, and I keep looking at the stone as if it is going to speak to me, give me some words of comfort or reassurance. But nothing comes my way except the cold wind, a not very warm sun flashing my eyes. I take a deep breath and put my hands on my knees. You had it coming, I almost whisper, not wanting for my words to be stolen by the wind and scattered across the land. You very damn well had it coming, and you know it. Saying it doesn't ease my hurt. If anything, it makes me more angry. Because it is true. You should have quit it when you had a chance. It is too late now, I guess. I take another deep breath, trying to calm down my emotions. The sun hides behind the miserable clouds, and the windy breeze feels even colder now. My whole body shivers in response, and muscles tense up. A mostly cloudy and cold day is a perfect setting for funeral. Makes it easier to leave the graves behind and dive into the warmth of a car or a house. But not me. I can't leave just yet. Not until I finish what I started. Marianne lived in a belief that if she consciously stayed out of trouble and allowed people to walk all over her, she would be at peace. It worked for a while. The problems didn't seem like problems back then. She forgave everyone who hurt her, never questioned anyone's actions or motives, agreed to everything she was thrown at. It was the ultimate goal, wasn't it? Until it stopped working. The trouble came looking for her, and she couldn't keep it away, regardless of how hard she tried. That was the first time she fought back, stood her ground, and followed her beliefs. It wasn't enough. It was never going to be enough. And now, she's stuck in this endless loop of bad decisions she can never make right. And it still hurts me to know that Marianne will never be fully free. I glance at my purse that I placed next to me on the bench and swallow hard, feeling my anxiety rise once again. It has to be done. I remind myself, hoping it will bring me some courage. It doesn't, but it was worth a try. It has been a while since that information has been dropped on me, and the steps I need to take been explained. I have had enough time to process and digest everything, yet I'm still worried. It is an incredibly serious situation, and I cannot predict how this will affect me in the future. Yet I have no choice. The worst thing has already happened. Now, I just have to keep covering my tracks to stay hidden, stay a shadow that no one can catch. And killing Marianne Robinson was the first step. I reach for my bag, take out her passport, and a small, handheld shovel. The top corner of the passport is already snipped off, as per the instructions from the government received when I registered Mary's death. The next steps seem easy to make, but yet feel the hardest. They feel final, as if killing someone is not final enough. Reluctantly, I open the passport and look at the photo. I used to look so mediocre back then, with my uneven fringe, refusal to wear any makeup, official and modest clothes. I didn't even smile for that picture. Apparently, it was the rules. I then glance at the name written next to the photo, and I take another deep breath. My passport is still valid for another 2 years, or it would be, hadn't I cut off the corner. But it doesn't matter. I am dead. Officially, I had to die. The work I will be doing is dangerous, risky, and very important. All the ties to my previous life had to be cut, and that's why Marianne had to die. For Cassie to be born, I approach the grave and kneel on the grass. With a pounding heart, I dig a foot-deep hole into the fresh ground and gently place the passport there. After filling the hole back up, I stand up and keep staring at my grave. "Goodbye, Mary," I whisper with a single tear rolling down my cheek. I don't wipe it. I allow it to slowly drop on the ground. Santa, the hitman. The hospice smells like antiseptic and failed dreams. A Christmas-themed air freshener dangles from the IV stand, swaying in time with my father's mechanical wheezing. It smells like cinnamon and regret. The fluorescent lights hum, drowning out the morphine's slow drip. Hi, I'm the man who never amounted to anything. The trophyless disappointment. If life is a race, I'm the guy who tripped in the first 10 feet and never got back up. 35 years old, still renting, and my most significant contribution to society is a viral video of me accidentally setting fire to a microwave burrito. That's me, proud owner of a pile of unwashed dishes and a credit score so low it could run for public office. I sit slouched in this corner, watching my dad suck on life like it's a particularly stubborn milkshake. He's enormous. Round face, round belly, round everything. A human snowman, melted into a hospice bed. The kind of guy who built his whole life on being likable. For 30 years, he played Santa Claus at the mall. Not just any Santa, mind you. He was the Santa. The one people drove 4 counties over to see. His face still pops up on Christmas cards across the Midwest. A local legend, a walking, jolly Norman Rockwell painting. And me? I'm the guy who gave him a $10 Amazon gift card for Christmas. You'd think that's why he's dying. The look he gave me when he opened it. He beckons me closer, his hand shaking like a rusty wind-up toy. "Come here, kiddo." "Yeah, sure," I say, dragging the chair closer. It screeches against the linoleum like its legs are fighting with the floor. "What is it this time?" Another story about how you single-handedly saved Christmas at the mall in '93. His laugh comes out like a wheeze caught in a blender. Then he stops, face turning deadly serious, eyes boring into mine. "I've got a confession, kiddo. Something big." I lean back. Here we go again. "Oh, great. Did you save Christmas again?" He laughs, shakes his head. His smile, faint but still there, cracks like old plaster. "No. Listen to me, kiddo. I killed people. I was a hitman. The words hit me, like a sucker punch to the ribs. His eyes twinkle with something far from Christmas cheer. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Not because I believed him, but because some part of me wanted to. Like, even in death, Dad had to be bigger than life. Then the ridiculousness hit me, and I laughed. Hard. Too hard. Jesus, Dad, did the morphine knock your last screw loose? You don't think a guy with fake snow in his eyebrows could carry out a clean kill? Do you? Dad's grin spreads like butter on burnt toast, his cheeks wobbling like he's auditioning for Jell-O's next ad campaign. I stare. Words feel stuck somewhere between my brain and my tongue, like traffic on the I-5 during rush hour. I've got a list of things I never expected to hear from my father. I love you. I'm proud of you. There's a secret trust fund hidden in the walls. But this takes the cake, and then assassinates the baker. You're messing with me, I finally manage. Is this one of those morphine fever dreams? Should I call the nurse? Blink once for yes. Dad coughs out a laugh, deep and phlegmy, shaking his head. No joke. I was good at it too. Seasonal work was the perfect cover. Everyone sees Santa as a big, harmless teddy bear. No one suspects Santa Claus of carrying a 9mm Glock. I blink. Hard. He's lost it. The man's gone off the deep end, dragged the Christmas tree, the reindeer, and the inflatable snowman with him. I had a code, he says, his voice dropping to a low rasp, like he's auditioning for The Godfather. Never moms, never kids, and no one who liked Christmas. I rub my temples. So you're telling me all those business trips to Reno weren't about fixing mall contracts? Nope. He pops the P like he's proud. They were about fixing people. Your old man was a regular Mr. Clean. And you expect me to believe this? He leans forward, a Herculean effort given his state. Remember the upstairs neighbor at our old place? The guy who played techno at 2 a.m.? I nod slowly, stomach sinking. You said he moved. I moved him. His grin widens. To a landfill. Permanently. You're not serious, I whisper, but my voice cracks. Oh God, he's serious. Go to my apartment and look for a box labeled Santa's Naughty List. Top shelf of my closet. See for yourself. I'm halfway to the door when the heart monitor gives up. The line going flat, like it's tired of pretending he had time left. Dad's apartment is a shrine to Christmas. Not the classy Pottery Barn kind of Christmas. This is the Walmart on clearance kind. Everywhere you look, there's a red and green assault on the senses. Tinsel dangles like garish cobwebs. A nutcracker army lines the windowsill, their paint chipped like they've been through a war. Fake snow dusts every surface, not sprinkled, but dumped, like he'd been trying to recreate a blizzard indoors. I kick a pile of it near the couch. It puffs up, glittering. The closet, though, that's where things get creepy. Rows of Santa suits hang in perfect order, sorted by decade. The 80s suits are polyester atrocities, faded red like tomato soup left in the sun. The newer ones are lush, rich velvets. There's even a Santa pimp cane leaning in the corner. Because, of course, there is. And the smell? That weird mothball meets candy cane funk. It clings to your clothes, gets in your hair. I'd need 3 showers and a priest to feel clean again. That's when I see it. A box on the top shelf, labeled in Sharpie, Santa's naughty list. My stomach drops. No way that this is real. No way. The box creaks as I pull it down. Years of dust exploding in my face. Inside, the first thing I see is a pair of cracked glasses. Thick, Coke bottle lenses, scratched to hell. Still smeared with something. A fingerprint, maybe. Or worse. Intrigued, I pick them up gingerly, like they might bite. It had a Christmas gift tag hanging from it, reading, "The neighbor who played ABBA on repeat." Next, there's a gold wedding ring, heavy, engraved with "Forever Denise." This one has tag dangling from it that reads, "Hired by Denise to take care of her abusive, cheating husband." She gave me fresh baked cookies, still warm from the oven, too. The box bulged with trophies, Christmas tags swinging off them like tiny, glittery alibis. At the bottom, a mall Santa hat, its white fur trim stiff and crusted with something dark brown. Blood? Hot chocolate? Both? My hand hovers over it, like touching. It might connect me to him, but I jerk back. My heart pounds in my ears. This is insane. This is nuts. This is impressive. Turns out, Dad wasn't just a professional at making kids smile. He was a professional at making people disappear. The thing about secrets is they're sticky. Once you hear one, it clings to you like gum on a shoe, no matter how much you scrape. Dad's confession isn't just sticking, it's metastasizing. The more I think about it, the more I see his life wasn't 2 separate halves. Santa and hitman, jolly old saint and silent assassin. It's all the same guy. And now, I'm the one holding the bag. He's dead. The town's favorite. Mall. Santa. Gone to that big workshop in the sky. Kids will cry when they hear. Some mom will bring them to the mall next week, hoping to see his stupid, twinkly eyes and hear his gravelly laugh. Instead, they'll get some substitute in a cheap suit, the kind who smells like whiskey and regret. That'll be Dad's legacy. A hole in the lives of every snot-nosed kid who sat on his lap, unless I tell the truth. If I do, it won't be crying kids. No. The whole town will lose its collective mind. Imagine this headline. Breaking news. Killer. Kringle caught dead. The local paper will have a field day. They'll dig up every photo of him, grinning in his red suit, surrounded by smiling children, and slap it next to words like murderer in bold block letters. The tabloids will pick it up. Every dumb podcaster with a microphone will start calling him the Silent Santa Slayer. And me? I'll be the idiot who ruined Christmas for the whole town. The funeral smelled like peppermint and formaldehyde. Someone decided Dad's last ride should look like an after-Christmas clearance aisle. Red and white draped the lid, as if trying to sugarcoat the whole thing. And of course, the mall workers showed up in elf hats, because nothing says, "We respect your dead father," like polyester and jingling bells. The service started with a speech from Jerry, the guy who managed the mall. Jerry had a voice like a dying accordion and the charisma of wet cardboard, but he tried. He wasn't just Santa, Jerry said, his words wobbling. He was Christmas. He saved Christmas. Saved it? Like he pulled Christmas from a burning building? You mean he sat in a chair for 8 hours a day while toddlers screamed in his face? Then came the slideshow. Dad with kids. Dad shaking hands. Dad eating cookies that probably came with handwritten death requests. And now it was my turn. I stepped up to the podium, clutching my notes. My palms were slick, my mouth dry. Every eyeball in the room locked onto me like I was the halftime show. Here lies Santa, the town legend, and here comes his loser kid. Fumbling for words, I cleared my throat. Dad was unforgettable, a safe start. Too safe. My hands shook. I glanced down at my notes, then up at the crowd. Their faces blurred. My brain buzzed because, my voice cracked. He was Santa. And a hitman. The room froze. A collective gasp sucked all the air out. Then Jerry laughed. The kind of laugh that makes you wonder if someone's choking. Santa? A hitman? More laughter erupted. Next, you'll tell us Rudolph ran a dip-fighting ring. I blinked. The crowd thought I was joking. Thank God I faked a chuckle. The kind that burns your throat on the way out. Yeah, I guess he really killed it as Santa, huh? The groans at my pun covered my slip-up, and I pivoted. Hard. But seriously, Dad was the most unforgettable Santa this town ever had. They clapped. Some people wiped tears. And me? I stared at the casket, wondering what was worse, burying the truth with him, or walking around with it, lodged in my head forever. The funeral was barely over when he found me. Grizzled guy in a trench coat, the kind of face that looks like it's been carved out of driftwood. He shook my hand, his grip hard and dry, and said he knew my dad. Frankie, he said, like I should already know who he was. An old associate of your dad's. Associate? What kind of associate? Did Santa have a union? A reindeer mafia? Sorry for your loss, Frankie said, not sounding sorry at all. Your dad was a legend, one of the best in the biz. The biz? I asked, the words tasting like sewer milk. Frankie smirked, like I'd just failed some kind of test. He opened his trench coat, not for a gun or a bomb or a flashing incident, but for a business card. The font was a little too cheerful, a little too Comic Sans for what it said. Kringle and Associates. Holiday solutions for your problems. I stared at it like it might bite me. This is a joke, right? Frankie leaned in, breath heavy with something cheap and lethal. Your dad wasn't the only one, he said, his voice like gravel, rolled in honey. He pulled a candy cane from his pocket, twisting it between his fingers. Seasonal work. It's got its advantages. Keeps things clean. He paused, watching me, waiting, like there was something I was supposed to say. It's the perfect cover. Frankie smiled, teeth yellowed like a dog just pissed in the snow. He straightened up, sliding his hands into his coat. Your dad always said you'd make a great Santa. You've got the look. My dad spent my whole life teaching me things I didn't realize were lessons. How to lie with a smile. How to disappear in a crowd. How to keep secrets. I always thought he was preparing me for life, but maybe he was just preparing me for this. Frankie's words hung in the air like cigarette smoke, clinging to my skin. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Frankie tipped an imaginary hat and walked away, disappearing into the kind of fog that makes you doubt he was ever really there. I looked at the card again, the words staring back like a dare. Kringle and Associates. Dad always said to find a job that suits you. But some jobs find you. In the distance, I heard bells, maybe wind chimes, maybe the Salvation Army guy packing up. Who knows? What I do know is that I hate kids. I love cookies, and I could probably pull off the beard. The perfect coincidence. When Maggie first found the old postcard at the bottom of her grandmother's drawer, she thought nothing of it. It was a typical postcard, nothing spectacular. The image on the front was of a sunny beach with the words, "Greetings from Seabrook," printed in bold letters above a view of the ocean. But the back was what made Maggie freeze. Written in smudged ink, in a neat, looping script, were just 2 lines. "I'll be there at 5 p.m. Don't forget the blue umbrella. It'll be our sign." There was no date, no name, just a message. Maggie wasn't sure why, but it sent a shiver down her spine. She turned the postcard over in her hand. Her grandmother, Clara, had passed away last year, and the postcard was among some of the things Maggie was sorting through as she went through her grandmother's things. She had never seen this postcard before. Clara had never mentioned Seabrook. There were no family vacations to the beach, no secret lovers from some faraway town. There were no blue umbrellas. But the thing that unsettled Maggie the most was how familiar the writing looked. The loops, the curls, they looked exactly like her handwriting. Maggie shook her head, trying to dismiss the thought. It was ridiculous. It was just a coincidence. She had to be imagining things. But still, the words echoed in her mind as she tucked the postcard into her pocket. Over the next few days, Maggie couldn't stop thinking about it. Why had her grandmother kept it? Why hadn't she ever mentioned Seabrook or the blue umbrella? Maggie, for reasons she didn't understand, decided to look into it. The next weekend, she packed her things and headed out to Seabrook. It wasn't far, just a few hours' drive. She didn't know why, but something told her she needed to see it for herself. Seabrook was a little town with the kind of charm that felt a little too quaint, a little too perfect to be real. As Maggie drove through the small streets, she started to feel like she was in a movie. The cobblestone paths, the little cafes with flower boxes in the windows, the sea breeze, it all felt so familiar. She found a small inn to stay in, an old white house with a wraparound porch. The lady at the front desk greeted her with a warm smile, as if she had been expecting her. "First time in Seabrook?" she asked. Maggie nodded. "Yes, just for the weekend." "You'll love it here," the lady said. "The best spot is down by the beach. If you're looking for something to do, the pier's just a short walk. It's beautiful at sunset." Maggie smiled politely, but she wasn't here for the tourist attractions. She was here for something else. That evening, as the sun began to set, Maggie walked down toward the beach. The breeze was cool on her face, and the sand felt soft beneath her feet. She had no idea where she was going, but somehow she felt like the postcard was leading her, like she was following an invisible trail her grandmother had left behind, even though Clara had never told her to come. She walked along the shore, the sound of the waves crashing in the distance. And then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw it. A small blue umbrella, positioned right by the water, almost as if it had been waiting for her. Maggie stopped in her tracks. Her heart raced as she stared at the umbrella. It was a little worn The fabric faded, but it was unmistakably blue, exactly like the one in the postcard. She approached slowly. There was no one else around, just the umbrella, the sound of the waves, and a growing sense of anticipation. As she reached the umbrella, she saw a bench nearby, old and weathered, its paint chipped from years of saltwater exposure. But what caught her eye next was the piece of paper resting on the bench. It was folded neatly, like a letter with a small, familiar scrawl on the front. "Maggie, open me." Her hand trembled as she unfolded the paper. It wasn't a letter, though. It was another postcard, identical to the one she had found in her grandmother's drawer. The same beach, the same Seabrook at the top. But this time, the words were different. "I'm here, just like I promised. Meet me where the ocean touches the sand. The blue umbrella will be your sign. I'm waiting." Maggie's heart skipped. This can't be happening, she thought, almost breathlessly. She glanced around, but the beach was empty. No one was here. No one had been here, and yet, somehow, she felt drawn to the spot, like it was a place where time and reality blurred. "Clara?" she whispered, almost as if speaking the name aloud would make something happen. But there was no answer, no sign of anyone nearby. She sat down on the bench, the postcard in her lap. The sun was almost fully set now, painting the sky with shades of pink and orange. Then, a figure appeared at the edge of the beach. Maggie's breath caught in her throat. The figure was too far away to make out clearly, but something about the silhouette seemed so familiar. The way they moved, graceful and sure-footed, as if they had walked this very spot 1,000 times. Maggie stood, unable to keep herself seated. She took a few tentative steps toward the figure, her eyes squinting, trying to make sense of the shadow. The person grew clearer as they approached, and Maggie's pulse raced in her ears. It was her grandmother, Clara, standing before her, looking younger than Maggie had ever remembered. Her skin was free of the wrinkles it had when she'd passed. Her hair, though graying when she died, was now thick and dark, cascading down her shoulders. She smiled, a soft, knowing smile that made Maggie's heart ache. "Grandma?" Maggie whispered, her voice barely audible. Clara nodded, her smile deepening. "I knew you'd find me, Maggie." "Find you?" Maggie felt tears well up in her eyes. "But how? How are you here?" Clara reached out, her hand brushing Maggie's cheek. "It's not as complicated as it seems. I needed to bring you back here. Back home." Maggie shook her head in disbelief. "But the postcards, they were from you?" "Not exactly," Clara said softly. "The message was always for you. But it wasn't time for you to understand until now. You were always meant to be here, Maggie, right where the ocean meets the sand. Maggie's heart pounded, her thoughts spinning. But why the blue umbrella? Why Seabrook? Clara's eyes softened, and she gave a small, bittersweet laugh. The umbrella was just a symbol, your sign. And as for Seabrook, my dear, well, all I can say is that this is your home now. The wind picked up slightly, the ocean whispering as the world around them seemed to shift again. Like a dream slowly fading, Maggie opened her mouth to ask more, but the words caught in her throat. Clara's figure started to dissolve, becoming less distinct, as if the very air was pulling her back into some distant place. "Wait!" Maggie called, but her grandmother's figure was already gone, leaving nothing behind but the blue umbrella and the sound of the waves. Maggie stood there, her hands trembling, her heart racing. The perfect coincidence, too good to be true, had just happened.